Okay, we've got the stack of sources you sent over, and today we are doing a deep dive into, well, the complex and evolving world of cyber threats across South America.
That's right. We're working from this really detailed research report. It profiles hackers, groups, specific incidents, spanning 12 different nations in the region.
Gives quite a granular look then.
It really does.
And our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack this report for you. We want to pull out the most important insights, help you understand who the key actors are, what's driving them.
How they're operating.
Exactly. And the significant impact they're having on cybersecurity down there.
It's a landscape that's, well, it's far more varied and dynamic than many might initially assume.
Right. Get ready for some surprising findings. This report makes it pretty clear that the threat isn't just one thing.
Not at all.
It covers everyone from individuals, some, like surprisingly young, doing things almost for the thrill.
All the way up to state-linked espionage and, major international criminal syndicates.
There are some genuinely unexpected stories buried in these pages.
Definitely.
So let's kick off with that core observation from the report. South America is home to this incredibly diverse and rapidly changing cyber threat landscape.
That's really the foundational point the report establishes. You see this wide spectrum of activity.
Yikes.
Highly skilled individual operators, large international criminal syndicates, some of which, and this is intriguing, have very young members involved. And also, ideologically driven hacktivists.
And their motivations aren't uniform either, right? It's not just about the money.
Correct. While financial gain is definitely a major driver, the report highlights motivations ranging from political activism to outright espionage for state.
We're just wanting to get famous. Babe.
Exactly. Seeking notoriety and recognition within that sort of hacking community.
And the methods they use, still the usual suspects.
Pretty much the whole arsenal. We see sophisticated malware being developed and deployed, lots of social engineering tactics.
Phishing and that kind of thing.
Yeah, large-scale data breaches, and even the more, let's say, basic methods like website defacements are still popping up.
Okay, so a key takeaway right from the start for you is that this isn't a one-size-fits-all problem.
Absolutely not. Because the actors' motivations, methods are also varied. There's no single approach to understanding or countering these threats across the region. You have to look at the nuances.
Now, one theme that genuinely jumped out at me from this report is the youth factor. There's a significant and, recurring involvement of young people, even teenagers.
And they're often described as incredibly skilled.
It is a striking pattern that emerges from the data, isn't it?
Yeah.
These aren't just casual dabblers. They are participating in, or sometimes leading, serious cyber operations.
Like that super hacker case in Argentina.
Yes. The individual arrested back in 2013 described as just 19 years old.
And the report mentions allegations that he was pulling in, reportedly around $50,000 a month?
Yeah, using a botnet that's like a network of hacked computers he controlled.
Targeting money transfer and online gambling sites.
And the police Operation Zombie, it was quite dramatic.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Right. The report details that during the raid, the authorities actually cut power to the entire neighborhood.
Wow.
To stop him from potentially wiping evidence remotely.
That's an extreme measure. It really underscores how technically sophisticated they thought he was.
And the lengths they felt they had to go to.
It's a clear illustration of the challenges law enforcement faces, dealing with highly technical suspects who can destroy evidence in an instant.
And then there's the connection to that international group, Lapsus.
Yeah, the report identifies a core teenage member from Brazil linked to Lapsus.
And they were the group behind that big attack on Brazil's Ministry of Health, right? Late 2021.
That's the one. Famously took down systems, temporarily blocked access to the nation's COVID-19 vaccination certificates. Huge disruption.
And you also had the Lilisakaroo duo.
CyberRat and Dash 501. The report paints them as young, largely self-taught.
Yet they managed to compromise government networks.
Across multiple countries, yeah. Peru, Argentina, Colombia, Chile, Venezuela. Even the cyber police unit supposedly investigating them.
Seriously?
Yeah. Their actions seem to have been fueled by a mix of hacktivism and, ego, a desire for notoriety.
And Lord Phoenix in Brazil, another young one.
A 20-year-old computer science student, reportedly. Yeah. The report states he was involved in creating and selling banking Trojans.
So malware designed to steal financial info.
Exactly. Specifically targeting major banks like HSBC Brazil, this shows, a direct application of technical skill to large-scale financial crime at a very young age.
So looking at these examples, this significant youth involvement, what does it tell us about the landscape overall?
Well, it points to this growing kind of globalized youth cyber culture where technical knowledge, tools, they're just more accessible than ever before.
And this is why you should care. It creates unique challenges, right?
Absolutely. For law enforcement, which needs specialized skills and legal frameworks for technically adept juvenile offenders.
And for education systems too, I guess.
Definitely. How do societies effectively understand this, engage with it, and potentially guide this technical talent towards, ethical paths instead of cybercrime?
That's a huge, complex challenge. Okay, let's dive into some specific countries and cases from the report. They really showcase this diversity we've been talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. The individual stories in the report's tables and sections, they give crucial context to these broader themes.
Starting with Brazil, the case of Walter Delgado Neto really stands out. Politically charged.
His story is quite intricate, yeah. He got known for the Vaza Jato leaks.
Hacking Telegram accounts of officials in the car wash investigation.
Right. And then later, the report notes these alleged claims he made during a congressional hearing.
That former President Bolsonaro had asked him to try and hack voting systems to create doubt about them.
That's the allegation mentioned, but the report is careful presenting it neutrally. It notes Delgado himself said it wasn't really feasible because the machines weren't online. And the alleged request was actually to simulate a hack on a different machine, one they'd borrow.
Right, okay. So it's crucial to stick to what the source material says. These were allegations by Delgado. And the report specifies the alleged ask was about a simulation, not messing with the actual isolated voting machines.
Precisely.
So this raises an important question, though. Beyond the technical side, what does this case show us about how hacking claims or vulnerability claims can be used? Maybe weaponized in political arguments, regardless of the tech facts.
That's a really interesting point. And the report does mention Delgado got a hefty sentence, 20 years, for the Vaza Jato hacking. So his actions had very real consequences.
And on a broader scale for Brazil, the report mentions huge financial losses from cyber attacks generally.
Yeah, estimated around $40 billion annually. It indicates Brazil is a major target for all sorts of cybercrime.
Okay, moving over to Chile, we see a different kind of story arc there, starting with the Bayan team.
Yeah, way back in 2006, Leonardo Hernandez, Natoxic, and his Bayan team, they defaced thousands of websites.
Including some big names, right?
Yeah.
NASA, Chilean government sites.
Exactly, and the report states their main motivation was just for fun, basically seeking notoriety.
But contrast that early stuff with what the report details more recently in Chile.
Whoa, the shift is stark. That 2022 Guacamaya hack on the Chilean military, that was a serious national security incident.
Led to the head of the Joint Chiefs resigning, didn't it?
Directly, yes. And then more recently, the report talks about a massive 2024 data leak affecting over 10 million citizens.
Wow.
Plus international breaches hitting Chileans, like the Shiny Hunters attack on Santander Bank customers.
So you really see this clear path in one country, from maybe youthful mischief and ego.
To highly impactful threats hitting national security and the privacy of millions, a real evolution.
Okay, now in Colombia, the report highlights Darwin Ibero Muriel Moreno. And this case seems focused on targeting vulnerable people.
Yeah, this is a particularly disturbing example. He's described as a significant cyber criminal who specifically went after elderly people's pension payments.
How? Using stolen identity documents.
Yes, running a criminal network that trafficked this stolen ID info internationally. They'd use it to open fraudulent financial products overseas.
It's a cruel application of cybercrime, isn't it? Using tech tools for old-fashioned fraud against people who can least defend themselves.
Exactly. What's fascinating, in a grim way, is how criminals adapt these tools to exploit the most vulnerable parts of society.
And the report shows the scale of the problem in Colombia is just exploding. Cybercrime cases surged dramatically.
From under 500 in 2004 to over 72,000 in 2023. Huge increase.
Okay, Ecuador presents two distinct but both pretty impactful scenarios. First, there's the controversial case of Olabini.
The Swedish digital security expert, arrested around the same time Julian Assange's asylum ended at the Ecuadorian embassy.
Right. And his legal situation has been complex.
Very. The report tracks the twists. Shifting charges, he was initially acquitted, then an appeals court found him guilty. But importantly, it notes this was still under appeal as of April 2025.
And a point of major controversy highlighted is the appeals court apparently viewing his use of Tor as suspicious.
Yeah, the report notes this aspect was seen as problematic by digital rights groups. Tor is a tool for anonymous browsing.
Used legitimately by journalists, activists,
Yeah.
security researchers too, right?
Exactly, to protect themselves while investigating threats. So this raises a really important question about how legal systems are trying to understand and interpret these privacy tools. Tools with perfectly legitimate uses.
And whether viewing them with suspicion could actually hinder important cybersecurity work or unfairly target people.
It's a serious concern.
And then separately, but equally massive for Ecuador, that huge 2019 data breach.
Exposed personal info of nearly the entire population. Over 20 million records.
And that wasn't a sophisticated hack.
No, the report suggests it was due to an unsecured server, a systemic failure in basic data security practices.
So the insight here is that not all major cyber incidents come from super skilled attackers. Sometimes it's just fundamental security gaps.
With catastrophic consequences, leaving millions vulnerable to identity theft and scams for years to come.
Finally, let's look at Venezuela. This provides a profile of someone allegedly operating at the top level of the cybercrime world.
Moises Luis Sagala Gonzalez, reportedly a cardiologist, also known as Nosophorus.
Right. And the report alleges he created and sold ransomware as a service tools, like one called Thanos, globally.
That's the allegation, so he wasn't necessarily the one doing the infecting directly.
He built the malicious software, the infrastructure, then leased it out.
Exactly. The report describes his alleged business model licensing, profit sharing with affiliates who deploy the ransomware. He supposedly even provided customer service.
Wow. Advising on deployment.
Yeah, and designing tools advertised to evade detection. It shows this move towards really professionalized cybercrime with specialized roles like tool developers acting as vendors.
And yet, despite that level of technical skill, the report points to alleged mistakes in his operational security, his OPS.
Yes, the report notes alleged errors, like reportedly using an email address with his real name in it.
Oh, dear.
And a PayPal account linked to a relative in Florida to receive payments. These alleged mistakes show that even highly technical cybercriminals can slip up on basic identifiers that help law enforcement.
And according to the report, he's currently on the FBI wanted list, but still in Venezuela.
That's the status noted in the source, yes. This case is significant because it shows South America isn't just a target. It can also be an origin point for globally deployed cyber threats.
Which really highlights the need for international cooperation in law enforcement, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it's crucial.
Okay, beyond these big headline cases, the report also touches on dynamics in countries where the story isn't maybe centered on one famous hacker, but more on broader trends.
Right, like look at Bolivia. The report mentions this fictional hacker group, Resistencia, from an acclaimed novel set there.
And what's striking is the contrast, isn't it, between that fictional image of sophisticated digital resistance
and the reality that the report describes. A sharp rise in pretty common cybercrime scams, identity theft, online grooming.
with women disproportionately affected, it says.
Yes, and this is happening alongside an insufficient legal framework and lack of police training. So the real struggle on the ground is less about complex digital plots.
And more about managing widespread, everyday digital threats that need basic resources and training. A real gap between narrative and reality.
Then there's Guyana. The report highlights it as a target for more sophisticated external threats.
Specifically mentioning that suspected China-linked campaign, Operation Jacana, using malware called Danodesrat.
Yes, and interestingly, they compromised a Vietnamese website first, using that as a stepping stone to attack Guyana.
So that clearly shows how global geopolitics and vulnerabilities in one place can be leveraged to hit a country far away.
Definitely. And Paraguay features, too, showing the transnational nature from different angles.
Not just as a target like that alleged Brazilian espionage using Cobalt Strike.
Right, to infiltrate their chancellery, but also as a place where international hackers get caught, like that Bulgarian Alexei Kolarov linked to the Shadow Crew group.
And as a transit point for dirty money, billions lost in crypto scams routing through there.
Exactly. It shows Paraguay involved as a target, a point of capture, and part of the financial flow.
And Suriname offers another angle with Alouette.
A Latvian national living there, allegedly programming for the global TrickBot gang, a major player in financial malware.
And what's striking here, the report notes her age, 55, and gender. challenges stereotypes, right?
It certainly does. And it also shows how any country, really, can become an operational base for these international criminal syndicates, again, underlining that need for global cooperation.
Lastly, Uruguay. The report revisits the Alberto Daniel Hill case.
A key example, it seems, of the legal system grappling with complex cybercrime allegations, potentially blurring lines between legitimate security research and criminal acts.
And the risks security professionals face.
Yes. And the report also mentions another case there, Vlad, with claims of scapegoating, which might suggest some underlying tension or maybe a trust deficit between the state and the tech community trying to help secure things.
Okay, so pulling all these individual stories and country specifics together, what are the big overarching regional themes that really emerge from this report?
Well, the most consistent theme has to be the profound diversity we've talked about. Across actors, motivations, technical sophistication.
Everything from financial crime in Argentina, Brazil, Venezuela.
Political motives in Brazil, Peru, Chile, espionage in Guyana, Paraguay, and just seeking notoriety in Chile and Peru. It's all there.
And the common tactics that keep reappearing.
Malware is huge development, deployment, lots of social engineering, phishing attacks, exploiting known vulnerabilities or just bad configurations, and data theft, often for extortion. Those are pretty common threads across multiple countries and incidents.
And the impact is clearly severe and widespread. It's hitting individuals, businesses, governments.
Absolutely. The report highlights staggering financial losses, major disruption to critical services, these massive data breaches affecting millions.
And real political fallout in some cases.
Definitely.
So in terms of response, the report indicates countries are trying to react.
They are. You see legal frameworks being developed specifically for cybercrime, specialized police units being set up.
And international cooperation is happening sometimes.
Yeah.
Leads to arrests.
It does happen, yes. We saw examples with Kolarov, WIT, the Bayan team investigation involved multiple countries. However, there's a big but. A persistent challenge highlighted throughout the report is the significant lag
between the threats evolving so fast
and the adequacy of the responses, yeah. Many measures feel reactive. Units get formed after a big crime wave. Laws are often playing catch-up, acknowledged as outdated almost as soon as they're passed.
And this isn't just a regional problem contained within South America.
Not at all. The report makes it very clear. South America is deeply interwoven with the global cyber domain.
It's a target for international actors.
An operational area for transnational groups, sometimes an origin point for threats hitting the rest of the world, like that ransomware example.
Which means, fundamentally, effective countermeasures need strong international cooperation. There's no go-it-alone solution.
Exactly. And the report also kind of touches on how the amount of public information about incidents varies across countries, which might reflect differences in reporting rules, transparency, maybe just research focus.
Oh, yeah. So wrapping up this deep dive into your sources, it really reveals this complex, dynamic, internationally connected cyber threat landscape across South America. It's characterized by incredibly diverse actors causing significant, wide-ranging impacts.
Yeah, and key takeaways for you should certainly include that surprising level of youth involvement in serious cybercrime, that stark contrast between different types of threats, individual financial crime versus state espionage versus just systemic data security failures, and this ongoing difficult challenge for governments and societies to build resilience and legal frameworks that can actually keep pace with how fast these threats are evolving.
So, what does this all mean then? Thinking forward, given the significant, technically skilled involvement of young people in cybercrime across the region, and the potential for legal systems to sometimes struggle with understanding technical stuff like legitimate security research, how can societies effectively guide this talent, guide it towards ethical paths, build a security culture,
and ensure justice is applied fairly, knowledgeably in this digital age?
Exactly. It's a critical challenge, isn't it? And one that resonates far beyond South America's borders.
It's a vital question. For policymakers, educators, anyone invested in the future of cybersecurity and technology, really.
Well, we hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights from the source material on the cyber threat landscape in South America. We definitely encourage you to explore these topics further based on the sources you provided.